back here on Across the Board with Ian the Colonel here on hawkradio.org and acrosstheboardradio.com. Now, I don't want to endorse any other radio stations or anything like that, but there is an online radio service that shall remain nameless that brings, I guess it plays new songs or just plays different songs in a genre that you've picked or something like that.
Right.
So I don't know, a couple months ago, it played this song, and immediately when I was hearing it, I was like, man, I love this tune. Just immediately the first few notes, I was like, I've got to see who this is. Came out to be a guy named Patrick Sweany. Loved it. Did the research, got him on the show right now. So, Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Obviously, you have your own unique sound, which is incredible. When people hear your music, they'll notice that, and I love it. But, I'm not putting you in a box, but when people, if I'm talking about an artist, like if I said, oh, you've got to hear this guy, Patrick Sweany, they're like, well, what does he sound like? So it's hard to describe. So a lot of times we have to put it in the context of other groups. So when I first heard Them Shoes, I thought, this kind of sounds to me like Dan Auerbach, or, Black Keys meets Tab Benoit. And I had done no research on you at that point. So then I start doing research, and I find out that you're actually really good friends with Dan Auerbach, and he's produced a lot of your albums. He's played on some of your albums, and you happen to be really good friends with Tab Benoit.
Yeah, I'm not super great friends with Tab, but we run into each other on the road and stuff like that. And I played a bunch of shows with him when I lived in Arkansas back in the mid to late '90s.
Okay.
And obviously always loved to sing. He's a nice guy.
So
we've been on a lot of shows together and had some beers, stuff like that. But so we see each other and we're like, hey Tab, hey Pat, we remember, but we're not. I don't want to say, oh yeah, I've got all these great friends.
Yeah,
I didn't. But Dan is a friend. He was in my band when the Keys started, and I remember listening to the first mixes of the big Come Up in the van on the break. We were doing a bar gig in Dover, Ohio, and went out to the van and listened to them. And I pretty much knew right then that Dan wasn't going to be in the band for very much longer.
Well, again, though, getting back,
it was great. I was so proud of their just immense success. Those guys. It all came from working hard, and making the right decisions at the right time. But yeah, but Dan and I, were really, we sort of, the reason we got together, his dad brought him to one of my regular, residency gigs in Ohio, and he was into Hound Dog Taylor, and we found out we liked a lot of the same stuff, so we started hanging out together. And then we were lucky enough when Dan was building a studio that he wanted to record us, and it was a great experience.
And again, talking about your sound, listening to anyone.
Oh, sorry. I guess I got off.
No, you're no. Talk about it all.
I'm just used to everyone wanting to talk about the Black Keys.
No. I want to talk about you. So your sound. I mean, if you listen to any of your albums, you hear so many different styles throughout the entire album, which I love. It's not like it's a straight blues album, or it's kind of bluegrass. It's kind of 50s kind of classic rock, that kind of thing. You have so many different influences. And what I hear in your music, and this is me, I hear, like Them Shoes, let's say, I hear that every time you play that song, I imagine it's completely different. It's, I don't know if this sounds too cliche, but it's like your soul coming out. You know what I mean? Where some people just play the notes, but it sounds like that's you just interpreting
what you're feeling at that moment.
Yeah, every single time. Right. Yeah, exactly. What do you feel in the moment? And I love it. What's going through your mind and your fingers when you're playing songs like that?
Man, that's a really tricky question. I mean, I've performing that song. That's an album that's 5 years old, and before really the dawn, and it's sort of the release and touring cycle of it was basically sort of over with by the time that that certain internet radio service that became so ubiquitous that it's really sort of exposed us to so many people.
Right.
So it's strange. When we play that, obviously it was something that fans liked at the shows, and it's a rocker, so we always tended to put it towards the end of the set. And then it got to be the point that people knew us from that song and that song only, just in the last year or so, and we ended up having put it at the end. But I mean, it's a fun song to play. I mean, you know, I don't mean to go off subject, but I mean, what I was thinking about is that when I wrote the song, you know, I was going through a you know, pretty rough, you know, little stretch of you know, just personal stuff, you know, regular, you know, man, woman kind of things, and was feeling a bit discouraged, and you know, then obviously, you know, I have great friends and great family. I'm like, you know, man, everyone else thinks their, you know, their situation is the worst, you know. So I just said, well, man, you gotta, you know, wear your own shoes, and you know, I mean, it didn't seem like it was anything very clever or anything like that. It just, but it fit in the timing of the song.
There you go.
It survived. I don't mean to de-romanticize the rock and roll experience there, and but I mean, it is a, you know, it's an emotional song, but it's a rocker, so we really, you know, we really try to pour, you know, when we play it live, really, you know, pour it all in. I mean, I really consider myself more so of a live performer, entertainer, that I really, so I try to do that with everything, and using dynamics, and I guess I've really just blown this whole question, haven't I?
No.
I mean, it's
talking about the style. That's what I want to hear.
I don't know what's going through my head when I sing it, other than trying to remember the lyrics and not stink.
I don't think you have to worry about that at all. Now, you know, as E alluded to earlier, you've surrounded yourself with great musicians. What goes into the process when you're trying to figure out who to play with and who to bring around you and to surround yourself with? What is the process that you're doing to choose these people?
Well, I basically go out and see my friends' favorite bands and then steal their players.
Well done.
Well, at least you're honest about it.
I live in Nashville. I mean, I live in Nashville now, so I mean, you know, when Ohio, it was a little longer process, and you know, forming the band, because you know, there's only so many guys that could get out and go out and play shows and be away from home. But and I was very lucky, guys. You know, Clint Allgaier and Bob Bassone, specifically, who still great friends of mine, and who were, you know, they were a little bit older than me, but they were hip to, you know, sort of the 50s and 60s rock, and also, you know, other kinds of music, you know, country music and bluegrass, and Clint was, you know, a big jazz head, so I really swung, and which I like, because even, you know, like all my favorite rock music really swings, like Black Sabbath, and you listen to Bill Ward, just drum himself, he's like a big band drummer, and so that is what I look for, somebody who can really swing, that, you know, that understands. And a bass player, like I tend to use the palette to paint with, the palette I choose and the colors I use, if you were going to use the analogy of like music as a picture or something like that, tends to be, you know, right from that, between the 50s, you know, 50s R&B and rock and roll, and like 60s soul and R&B, and mixed in with a little like late 60s, like Free, or, you know, Bad Company's first album,
right.
Which is all very, very soul influenced. But I mean, on the rock end, you know, it's still very organic. It's very, very, you know, I like those records because of the lack of pretense. But the way I choose guys, you know, I like that sort of old school aesthetic. You know, the bass player keeps time. You know, he's really driving the bus. And then the drummer, you know, sort of swings around that. So there's a lot of push and pull,
right.
With the drums and with the grooves. Because again, too, you know, I think, you know, you should be able to dance to every record.
Okay.
If you're going to have a band, because, you know, you're entertainers, you're performers. So, you know, how do people respond to that? You know, they get up and dance. You know, so that's kind of what I look for when I'm guys, and luckily that's been a lot easier finding different guys to tour with since I moved to Nashville, especially here on the east side.
Right, the talent pool is a lot deeper there.
It's amazing. I mean, you know, people can go on and on about Nashville, but man, I wanted to move here and hate it. I wanted to do 1 year and out, just to say I would do it and move back home, and I've fallen in love with the place. My wife's fallen in love with the place. A great circle of friends, and it really is, man. It's the best music scene in the country, and it is the most, I think, the deepest, most talented, most educated well of musicians in the world.
That's what I've heard.
Diverse too
in the world.
Yeah, I have to confess that I've actually never been to Nashville. Well, I've been to the airport, but I've never actually gotten and walked around the streets and heard what it sounds like there. And I'm ashamed of that. I need to get out there soon. So we'll have to.
And it's really a great place. It's it has such a great advantage of most of the positives of living in a major city with a real minimum of the disadvantages.
Wow.
It's easy to get around. The weather's good. It is absolutely gorgeous right now in Nashville. Sunshine and the leaves are falling. It's 75 degrees.
That's perfect.
I've been to Knoxville.
Yeah, I've been to Knoxville
in that area, but I've never been to Nashville.
I've been to Chattanooga, but never. Now let's talk about tone. So, especially with guitar players, I like to talk about tone. And with a blues, country, bluegrass, old rock background, a lot of blues guys can play, a beat up guitar. They picked out of the gutter. It's got 2 strings on it, no frets, and they can make it sound amazing. And then some of new players, have so many pedals and effects and do so many things through Pro Tools. Everything changes, and it's not necessarily clean anymore. Talk about what you're looking for when you find, you're trying to find your tone. And in recording, I know that old Southern Drag was actually recorded to tape, to 2-inch tape. So talk about that recording process as well.
Well, I like recording to tape. I think with my band it really works because, one, it's with tape, you're more about capturing a performance rather than sort of constructing a piece.
Right.
Which, mind you, which you can do with digital recording as well. And I'm not opposed to it. I've heard some fantastic albums of that. But I like the sound of tape. I like the way that tape sort of compresses things to make it. It just makes it more pleasing to the ear. As far and that's my opinion. I'm not going to upset any engineers or anything like that. But I like the way when the drums hit that it kind of squashes a little bit, for lack of a better term. So you can turn it up loud, but it doesn't become piercing.
Okay,
right. So tape kind of smooth things over. But also guitar, even guitar rig, and the tones I use there, I'm really influenced. I really like. I think the guys who first started playing electric guitars really figured it out right away, using smaller amps, turning them up. So there's breakup and there's a little bit of distortion, but there's still a clarity to it. Those early pickups are very on guitars, and for less nerdy people, pickups are those little things under the strings where that pick up the vibrations of the strings, and there's many varieties of them. But the early ones, they tended to act more like a microphone, and are a bit microphonic. And I play in a sort of archaic style as well. I'm a finger-style guitar player, so most people use a pick.
Yep.
But I like that, so you can actually hear your fingers a little bit. You can fear the attack, feel the attack, not fear the attack.
Fear the attack. It sounds like a metal band.
But so that is, and I just think those sounds were what I responded to as a kid. Those were the sounds that were really available in my dad's record collection, and I just liked them. I was also, I was hanging out with my friends and listening to terrible heavy metal and stuff. And it wasn't until later that I really found really, really good heavy metal, like things like Slayer and the first Metallica albums and stuff like that, which I'm still a huge fan of. But that's a whole different thing.
What's your setup like now? What kind of
those older sounds? I think they work better for me. They're a better way for me to express myself.
And what kind of guitar are you using now and pickups? Are you humbuckers, single coil? What are we talking about here?
I tend to go towards single coils.
Okay.
I've been for a long time. I was using a big hollow body with P90s in it. Now I endorse Fender guitars. and they've started a new series called their Pawn Shop series, which is a very retro look and very retro feel.
Yeah, they're cool.
So I used an Excelsior amplifier, which is a 13-watt amplifier with a single 15-inch speaker in it.
Ah.
So I freaking love that thing. It's great. And I used a Telecaster, which is an old school single coil electric guitar.
Yeah, great guitar.
And my main guitar is a new thing they've called the Offset Special, which is very, very much like a Fender Jazzmaster.
Okay.
But with a little more Strat style neck, and it's been really cool. And also, it has sort of the Jazzmaster. The pickups in that are tend to be more like a P90.
No.
They're a little hotter than regular Jazzmaster pickups. I mean, they have a little bit more output, but they're not they're cool. I just realized I just went on a guitar nerd rant.
That's what we want to hear, though.
You
Yeah.
can edit that as much.
No. That's what I hear.
You're not the first, and you won't be the last.
Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier about your affinity. You like to you have listening to the heavy metal as well. What would be the genre or the type of music that you listen to that would surprise the heck out of your fans? They never would have thought that.
Well, I mean, people really hardly ever believe that I'm a big metal fan. I mean, for certain things, like bands like Slayer, I think are fantastic, and I would go see them in a heartbeat.
Right.
Because I've seen them about 4 or 5 times. They've just been great. I like back in the late '90s, I really liked a lot of like experimental kind of noise rock band, mostly bands I could see in the clubs. Small clubs and rock shows. I mean, there was a great band I liked from West Virginia called Karma to Burn. Bands like there's a band from Kansas City I used to love called Season to Risk. I think. But very, the bands like Sonic Youth. Really dig. I really like. I like Queens of the Stone Age. Quite a bit. I like the projects that Josh Homey's done. I was a really big fan of the band Caius prior to Queens of the Stone Age. I thought they were freaking great.
Yeah, nice call.
But a lot of stuff like that, sort of on the Sabbathier end of the more modern kind of rock. And of course, bands like Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, and Free, and Bad Company's first album. I think those are perfect rock records.
You know who I could see you being into, and I definitely think E will agree with me here with your affinity for blues, and you like the metal as well. Clutch.
Oh, huge! I've seen Clutch like 10 times.
See,
I've played. I've been watching them for years.
Yeah, they're a local band to us too. They're from Germantown, Maryland.
Oh, really?
So, yep.
Cool. I really respect what those guys have done.
Love them.
They're amazing.
Really just the whole pro rock thing. I just think is they keep you see them. They have the same crew, same dudes. Seems like everybody they've got their machine down.
And that's something I like about them is something I really, really like about you as well, or at least what I get out of your music and talking to you. It's unpretentious. It's not like if nobody paid you to play guitar and to write music and to play music, then you would still do it. A lot of people, you can hear almost like, it's so polished. It's like, I need to make a record. But I think if you were homeless, you would still be sitting on the street playing.
Oh, yeah, dude. It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's really fun to play guitar. I think everyone should, and it's great therapy, sort of cool you out after a rough day or something,
And unless you heard
even if
me
you're not
play.
any good at it,
Right.
It's still fun.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm learning to play guitar and bass at the same time, and I keep saying that because it's taken me a long time to get any chords down or anything, but it feels so amazing to play some tunes and then think I made that happen. Like I made that noise right now. Whether it's just a simple strumming an A chord or if it's, playing like I'm learning on the bass line, the Panic Switch by Silver Sun Pickups, and just like, hey man, it's close, and I made that sound. It's so much. It's like power. It's so much fun as well. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it's also something you're sharing that with somebody else too. That's the thing. It's a very social thing as well, and it's it sort of removes all the awkwardness of conversation and any sort of pretense.
And chicks dig it.
Yeah, music is handy. We've figured that out. It's real handy.
Yeah, but I've listened to most guitar players say you never let the drummer play the guitar.
I don't believe that. I mean, if he's good, let him play.
Yeah, yeah, Jack White.
I mean, I try.
Yeah.
I try to get. I've come up with drum parts. For my records. So if the drummer can come up with a good guitar part, I'm open to that.
And that's on patricksweany.com, by the way. You can keep in touch with him there. And, of course, he's on Facebook and Twitter and all of those as well. And Sweany is spelled Sweany, patricksweany.com.
That's correct.
Absolutely. What can we expect from a live show? Again, we've never seen you before. That's how most people make their money. You don't make money off records a lot these days. You make money off of merch sales and ticket sales. So sell me.
Well, on this particular tour, since it's Tim and I are doing a co-bill, and Tim is a singer-songwriter and usually plays acoustic guitar. I'll probably be playing acoustic electric guitar, which I grew up doing, so at this particular tour, I play through an amplifier. I have a box that I stomp on that sort of sounds like kick drums.
Oh,
and
nice, yeah.
and you sing, and gosh, how do you describe what you do?
I'm in already. I mean, that sounds perfect. Then that's
there'll be lots of loud singing,
Nice.
and almost as loud guitar playing. And I just sort of run through. Like I said, I've got a short attention span, so I try to run through a good sampling of all the material. I really had a lot of fun playing tunes that I normally just play with the band, playing those solo and sort of doing little rearrangements of those. But a lot of times the band, when the songs start out as me performing them by myself, which I basically split 50-50 between the amount of gigs I do with the band and the amount of gigs I do solo, which is fun because they're different approaches, different styles of performing. And whereas, I'm stuck in one place, well, not stuck, I guess that's not quite the right term, but when I'm playing solo, I've got to have my feet on the box, and I'm usually sitting on a stool and singing. It's a little different. You have to be more engaging to the audience because you can't just, freak out and jump around and while you're playing solo and let the drums and bass do the work. So, it's definitely an interesting thing. I try to keep it as high energy as possible.
And I'd like to see that.
That's sort of a skill I've developed to try to not be ignored.
The box stomp. The only person I've actually seen do that is C6 Steve, which the Colonel just showed me a video of that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got like great. 3 strings and all that stuff. Yeah, he was awesome. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing that in person as well. I like that. You that's a good way to describe your show right there. You don't like to be ignored. I like that.
Yeah, I really try not to be ignored.
Now, what else can we expect? That Old Southern Drag came out last year, and you put out, new albums. Looks like every 1 to 2 years. Are we expecting something next year, or just when you get inspired?
I'm going to record a new record. I'm actually standing outside of my friend Joe, who will be producing it, outside his house right now, as we're going to have a pre-production meeting and going through songs. So
very nice.
Yeah. So hopefully new record out in the fall, or I'm rather spring.
Even better. I was going to say.
Yeah. That would be the normal thing. Oh, we'll start recording it. Yeah. Well, I mean, the last record though, there were actually 3 separate attempts to record it, and I finally, started working with Joe McMahon and really realized that he's the guy. He really gets what I do, and we really took time to make the songs the best.
Now, if you had 5 to 10 minutes left in your life, what would be the last song you would want to hear going out?
Wow, that is a tough one.
It's never easy here on Across the Board, Pat.
All right, first,
you can perform it if you want.
Yes, Mahalia Jackson's "Take My Hand, Precious Lord."
Okay.
Oh.
Right. That one would definitely get you grooving on the right tip.
Yeah.
If you're on your way out.
No doubt.
That I think, that's about as good as it gets.
And if and Pat, if you had any tips for people like me that are learning to play guitar or any instrument, or even people who are really really young learning to play, what's your routine? That when are you still trying to learn new things? Do you get up and practice every day, or
I try to practice every day.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always it doesn't always happen. But if you can, for when you're starting out, just putting that 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, you're putting your flesh against a metal object, against a wood object. So it's going to be sore. It's going to hurt. That's just it. And people are like, I don't want to do it anymore. My fingers hurt. Well, you just take a little break. But if you do it every single day, you're going to see marked improvement.
Right.
Don't be afraid to get a lesson from somebody. Don't be intimidated by that. It's, these are all mistakes that I have made.
And you can get any of Pat's music, his old stuff, the Patrick Sweany Band, or just under Patrick Sweany. You can get through iTunes or on Bandcamp, which you can actually get to through his website. Again, that's patricksweany.com or patricksweany.bandcamp.com. And again, Sweany is
cool. Or 9milerecords.com.
Excellent. 9 Mile, which you're signed to as well. And again, Sweany is SWEANY. And I've listened to the old stuff, the new stuff, and again, just such a big fan, man, because it's quality all the way through, and it's not the same song, beginning to end. It's something different. It's again, It sounds kind of cliche, but it's a musical journey. It's I'm hearing Chuck Berry type songs. I'm hearing bluegrass style stuff, and it's just something different. But you do it so damn well, man. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you indulging my, again, short attention span. I owe it all to sugary cereals and endless amounts of TV as a child.
That'll do it. What was your favorite cereal as a kid? Because it was Rice Krispies with marshmallows. Do you remember those?
I do. I do.
But they're like out.
Man, I was really into like the frosted mini wheats. Like those are pretty good.
Okay,
like
simple
fiber and then like an immense amount of sugar. I think that was.
So you could run to the bathroom fast.
And then Lost in Space reruns. That was
nice. Oh. Yeah. So I'm a Lucky Charms kind of guy.
I can see that with you. Yeah. Now I'm Frosted Flakes, I think. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to get on a cereal conversation here in any case. Yeah.
Good radio.
Again, check Pat out. And we can't say it enough. We say it every single week. But music is made to be heard, but also to be experienced. So especially with a blues type artist like Pat, go see him live. It's going to be nothing like you hear on the record. It only gets better from what's recorded. So we'll stay in touch about that as well. And for the Colonel, I'm E, and that's Patrick Sweany. We'll be back here in a few minutes here on Across the Board on hawkradio.org
and acrosstheboardradio.com.